So hi, good morning. So let's start this class with this particular question, that how freedom was won, violent methods or non-violent methods. So I'll start with a one of small excerpts from the history. It will continue, don't worry. So small excerpt from the history. It's 1929 and it's after the death of the Lala Lajpat Rai. How he died? Because of the lathi charge which happened in Lahore. And after his death, there was a arson, there was violence, there were killings, there were burning incidents. So people have resorted to the violence. Then people were berserk. They were trying to they were trying to take the revenge of the killing of the Lala Lajpat Rai. And in fact, entire country was in the violent mood. This was all observed by Gandhi when he was moving from, in 1929, after one such incident, he was moving from Lahore to Karachi. So that is the time when Gandhi emphasized that this must not be the way that we must be striving for our freedom. That he opposed this violence. Then he opposed this violence, that violence is not the way. When Gandhi was opposing these all things, so what happened? Some of the revolutionaries from the northwestern part of India, they went on to Gandhi's ashram, Sabarmati, and then they pasted a pamphlet in the Sabarmati ashram. They said that this is how the world operates. This is how the world operates, and then they are mentioning that you may have a friend, you may love your friend, you can die for your friend, you can kill for your friend. Then and you have an enemy. So that enemy you will have to fight out. If he kills, you will have to take the revenge. And this is how the world has operated since ages. And this is how the world will operate in this age also. Not with your methods of the non-violence. So it was a clear opposition to the Gandhi's method. That pamphlet has been posted. But then, was the saying of the Gandhi, belief of the Gandhi irrelevant? That non-violence, will it be effective or will it not be effective? So there is a Gandhian version also, that Gandhi's belief cannot be outdated, cannot be negated, that he was not relevant, he was equally relevant. And how he was relevant? Gandhi just asked one question, that suppose that if we resort to the methods of the violence, it may be possible that we can get our freedom. But what after that? Will it not breed the culture of the violence in the society? If anything happens in the society, or if anybody is not agreeing to anything, so then that person will resort to the violence to get his way. कोई भी परेशानी हो, कोई भी दिक्कत हो, so let's resort to the violence because it is the best way to get your problem addressed. So then this way the violence culture will be bred in the society, and people time and again will be resorting to the violence. So what it will lead to? It's not about just winning the freedom, but after the freedom, living in the peace. Will you live in the peace? Because people are resorting to the violence. So then society will be in the violence and there will be anarchy in the society. So it is important that the freedom must be won through the peaceful methods, not so violent methods. So with this particular excerpt only, I just want to introduce myself. I hope many of you might be knowing me and some of you are about to know. So my name is Neeraj Rao and I am one of the senior most faculties of the institute. Right from the inception of the institute, I am the one who is responsible for the history section. So I might meet you, modern we are starting, I might meet you in ancient medieval also, and so as in the art and culture also. So this was a just small story to give you the glimpse of that what all methods were there. But then one more discussion before going into the today's agenda. One more discussion is that is Indian history just limited to few personalities only? Gandhi, Sardar Patel, Nehru, and Subhash Chandra Bose. Are they only the people? They obviously they have contributed a lot. But then was it the only contribution? there are n number of the people in the Indian history whose history needs to be uncovered and whose names needs to reach to the people, because with everyone's contribution, the freedom was won, not because of the contribution of 1%, 2%, 3%, or 4%. And moreover, as you say, that society many a times it tends to discuss the history from the perspective of the two angles. And in the today's age, people are quite divided in two factions. That is the one section with the Subhash Chandra Bose, one section with the Gandhi. Why to divide it? Why not to take it holistically and see everyone's contribution with the right lens? So we'll try to maintain that particular thing, that will read history as it is without any colors and orientation. Then now understand, so what is the agenda of the today's class? My agenda of the today's class, that I don't want you to write anything today, or basically you can write some of the that whatever you understand, but it's not about dictation and everything. That I'll not be doing today. Today, since it is the very first class, so this class is meant for introducing you to the entire modern Indian history, the story of the modern Indian history right from the beginning till the end. And obviously that the time frame as we have right now, as I can see, it is 12:26. So it's a difficult task. So I'll be little fast in storytelling. Obviously I will have to be. So I'll be little fast in the storytelling, and then after in the next class, which is day after tomorrow, so we'll be starting the real course. Getting it? And moreover, my method of teaching is very simple then and very traditional. And what is that traditional method? That I'll be sharing the stories, I'll be discussing with you, and the same part I'll be dictating. I believe that the notes that you take home is one of the most important thing, because you write it in your own handwriting, and that's what goes well into your mind. And moreover, that I rarely use any PPTs and everything, particularly in the modern Indian history. I don't use PPTs. See, that my problem is that if I start saying PPT, so I get confused. Then, so मुझे लगता है कि उसे देखूं या तुम्हें देखूं. So, so then it will be simple traditional method, and with the traditional, and in fact, exam is also conducted in the traditional method itself. Then, so traditional method itself, that whereby you need to write pen and paper होना चाहिए. कुछ लोग देखता हूँ कि कुछ लोग टैब पे भी लिखते हैं write it, but then don't come up with the, this is suggestion. You can incorporate or not incorporate. That I have seen in some of the classes, people coming with the laptop and typing in the laptop. You cannot, my advice is don't do that. एग्जाम में लैपटॉप पे आंसर नहीं लिखोगे, ठीक है? तो you can write in the tab. Tab is a better thing, ठीक है? Because your writing practice must be there in the classes. So let's start with that without wasting time, क्योंकि 1.5 घंटे हैं हमारे पास. So let's start with the story. And there are n number of the other discussions also. So those discussions we'll be doing in the day after tomorrow's class, like reference material. ये भी सब दिमाग में चल रहा होगा, that reference material क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है. So those all discussions will be leaving it for the day after tomorrow's class. ठीक है? So चलो, let's start with the that story of the modern Indian history. And why story? See, understand that the most important thing in the history subject is the chronology. If you have understood the chronology, so then 30% of your problem is solved. And moreover, there are many such myths which needs to be busted about this subject, that कि क्या पूछते हैं, history एक factual subject है. So they will be asking so many factual things. Obviously factual things are asked, but then the UPSC history paper is not about mugging up those dates and details. Then so इतना UPSC specific नहीं है dates के बारे में, ठीक है? They are specific about the periods. I hope you're understanding what is date and period. What is period? Suppose I'm saying that period, so period is that from 1800 to 1900. So एक हिंदी में word होता है मोटा मोटे तौर पे, सुना है ना? तो हमें जो dates याद रखना है, that is मोटा मोटे तौर पे, ठीक है? And not to be very specific. Some of the dates will be repeated so many times that you will automatically remember it. Then so उसमें problem नहीं होगा, but not each and every date you need to remember. What date you need to remember? The date you had with somebody, ठीक है? So so now let's come to this part. So for your ease, I'm dividing the story part into 3-4 headings. So मॉडर्न की अगर जो बात करें, एंड आई एम यूजिंग लिटिल बिट ऑफ हिंदी, इज इट अ प्रॉब्लम फॉर एनीबडी? लेट मी नो, बट देन दैट मस्ट नॉट बी प्रॉब्लम बिकॉज आई विल बी यूजिंग लिटिल बिट ऑफ हिंदी बट इट विल बी ट्रांसलेटेड ऑल्सो, सो इट मस्ट नॉट बी द प्रॉब्लम टू एनीबडी, बट इफ इट इज देयर सो लेट मी नो. मैं लालू जी की तरह पूरी तरह अपने आप को अंग्रेजी में ट्रांसलेट कर दूंगा. सो सो नाउ देखो मॉडर्न, सो एज फार एज द क्रोनोलॉजी इज कंसर्न्ड, औरंगजेब्स डेथ इज कंसिडर्ड हमारे सिलेबस के लिए, ठीक है. सो औरंगजेब्स डेथ इज कंसिडर्ड एज द वाइटल पॉइंट और दैट बिगिनिंग ऑनसेट ऑफ द मॉडर्न. 1707 के पहले, बिफोर द डेथ ऑफ द औरंगजेब, फॉर सिलेबस, रजत कैन यू गेट इट ऑफ दिस स्क्रीन, ठीक है. सो दैट बिफोर द डेथ ऑफ द Aurangzeb, it is medieval period for the syllabus purpose, and moreover 700 to 1200 is considered as the early medieval period. 700 के पहले everything is the ancient period, and then 1206 to 1707 is the medieval period. So that is how syllabus has been, that in syllabus these periods are defined. So as far as the syllabus of the UPSC exam is concerned, prelims के paper में, that what they have mentioned, the only thing that has been mentioned in the syllabus, that history of the India and the national struggle, but then it is a very but not detailed syllabus that they have mentioned, but then history of India will include everything ancient, medieval, art and culture of India, and so as the modern India, and then the freedom struggle, a specific part of it is mentioned. जहाँ तक mains exam की बात है, so in the very GS paper first, that two parts of the GS history syllabus has been given. The very first part of the syllabus is mentions that history of India from the middle of the 17th century. So middle of the 18th century. So what is middle of the 18th century? 1750 onwards. Then so middle of the 18th century, significant events, personalities, and their contributions. So that is the first part of the syllabus. So significant events, personalities. So for example, significant events from 1750 onwards, maybe Battle of Palasi, Battle of Buxar, done. And then personalities, Sirajuddaulah, okay, Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan. So this is the first part of the syllabus. And second part of the syllabus, what it says, freedom struggle and its various phases. So freedom struggle and its various phases, and important contributors and contributions from different parts of the country. So syllabus itself says कि सिर्फ एक आदमी के बारे में बात नहीं करनी है, ठीक है. You need to understand about the different personalities who existed in the different parts of the country. Then, and moreover, if we see the papers, so obviously that prelims paper देखो, personality based questions are always there, and so as in the mains paper, often there is a personality based question. That so it's mentioned in the syllabus. So personalities would also be the focus of the study. Okay. So let's start with it. But understand. So 1750, as it is mentioned in the main syllabus, but then it will not serve our purpose to understand the entire story. And modern you cannot understand without understanding the advent of Europeans. Then, so actually, why we study modern in such a that unique way? Because of colonization by the British East India Company. So we need to see their endeavor, that when they have arrived and why, what other companies have also arrived. So very first topic would be the advent of Europeans, and then after advent of Europeans, we come to the 18th century developments in India. So 18th century development, on one hand, death of Aurangzeb and rise of the regional powers. And moreover, after the death of Aurangzeb, his own sons who became the ruler, they are called as later Mughals. Then, and then in the 18th century, the third development is the European companies, their infight and the rise of the British East India Company. So let's write very first title. I'm writing very first title and then I'm going in the elaboration of it. So advent of Europeans. Advent of Europeans. So two titles I'm writing and I'll go into the story. Second one is the 18th century India. So 18th century India mein, there are three headings. One, decline of Mughals. Decline of Mughals and later Mughal rule. So decline of Mughal, later Mughal rule. Then number two is rise of regional powers. rise of regional powers. And the third heading is rise of British East India Company. Rise of British East India Company. So let's start with the story, the very first part, that is the advent of Europeans. So now understand that when we say advent of Europeans, arrival of the Europeans in India, so is it the case that Europeans were never in India before the advent of the Vasco da Gama? They were, okay? N number of the Europeans, they have come to India, and in fact, India had a very good trade with the European part of the world. Then, so for example, when you read the ancient history, so then you get to know that Gupta rulers had a very good trade with the Roman world, and in fact, when the Gupta rule was there, so some of the major commodities of the export from India was the silk and the cotton textile, and in fact, Indian silk was very popular in the Italian part of the world. Then, so there was this trade contact. So as the Maurya time, Gupta se bhi pehle. So Maurya time, so there was a trade contact with the even till Egypt and even till the Turkey part. Then so there was trade contact. So trade contact of India was there with the European part of the world from time immemorial. Then, but then why we say that 1498 was a very important event? The reason is that direct sea route to India was found by Vasco da Gama. Then. But before going into it, let's understand the importance of this land. That India was always important for for anyone in the world, then, or any such religion in the world, any such country in the world. I'll tell you that Vedic Sanatan Dharma is considered as one of the oldest religion, and so as one of the contemporary of the that Vedic Sanatan Dharma is the Parsi religion, Zoroastrianism. So soon after the emergence, Zoroastrianism has come to India. In fact, what is the today's situation? That Parsis only exist in India, not in Iran, their birthplace. So Iran mein that religion is no more existing. Then what about the other religions? Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, they all emerged in India. But then when it comes to the other religions which emerge in the different parts of the world and popular religions, so for example, Christianity. So Christianity emerged in the 1st century AD, as you know that AD is all about the Anno Domini. And what is Anno Domini? In the light of the Lord. And who is the Lord? Jesus. Okay? So Jesus. So basically that Jesus' life is in the first part, and soon after, 2-3 years after the death of the Jesus, many such Christian saints, they came from Israel to India to popularize Christianity. And one of the most famous saint was Saint Thome. So Saint Thomas or Saint Thome, he came to India and then he popularized Christianity just after the death of Jesus, just in 2-3 years. Then, and then moreover, Saint Thome, his death also happened in India itself. The place was Mailapuram in Tamil Nadu. So Mailapuram in Tamil Nadu, and moreover, one of the initial church of the world is basically this church only. Just give me a minute. So this church only, which is there, St. Thome Church in Vellankanni in Tamil Nadu. So when it comes to some of the initial church of the world, so this will come into the list. Then what about the Islam? Islam emerged in the 7th century AD. Then, and soon after the emergence of the Islam, within 20 years of its emergence, it came to India. So presence of the Islam was there in India from the 7th century AD itself, and history is the testimony to it, that one of the oldest mosque in the world, you know where it is? Kerala. And the name of the that mosque is still existing in the Kerala. And in fact, that आज से लगभग 6-7 साल पहले, ठीक है, when our prime minister, he visited Saudi Arabia, so then he gifted the replica of that mosque to the Saudi Arabian prince. Then, so that mosque is still existing. That itself is a testimony that all the religions in whichever part of the world they emerged, they came to India. But why India is important? See that you will be reading in the geography that such is the climate and the other things of this land, that this particular country along with the neighboring countries is called as Indian subcontinent. It has the feature of the subcontinent. Then, so Indian subcontinent. Let's understand what is that important feature. The monsoon rains are unique to India. Then it doesn't happen, this kind of rain doesn't happen in any part of the world. And moreover, as far as the climatic phenomenons and then biodiversity is concerned, we are one of the highly biodiverse countries in the world. And moreover, we were naturally suited for the variety of the crops, variety of the agricultural stuff. So right from the beginning, we had a hell lot of resources then, and not only resources, but also many things to offer to the world. For example, that we do the rice cultivation, wheat cultivation, we do the sugarcane, and then n number of the fruits and the vegetables are there. But then one of the most important thing is the spices. Then, so black pepper and the cardamom, they are the natives to India. Then, so native, you understand, meaning that for the first time they have appeared in India. So black pepper, kale mirch, and then cardamom, elaichi. So these two were the native spices of India. And then if we talk about the spice which actually shaped the world order, that was the black pepper. Then, so let's understand the importance of the black pepper. Black pepper was the most, and it is the most important spice which is used all over the world in any kind of cuisine in the world. Then, so for example, that black pepper was that if we talk about the European part of the world, so European food is more of a non-vegetarian food, and then in some of the European countries, winters were very harsh. Then, so when winters are harsh, so then vegetables cannot grow, and then they will have to be dependent on the animal food. Then, so non-vegetarian food, and moreover in the harsh winters also, many of the animals go into the hibernation. So the Europeans, they used to preserve the meat. Then, and when they are preserving the meat, so they need the condiments. And condiments for what purpose? Not only for the preservation, but also for enhancing the taste of the meat. Then, so there was a demand of the black pepper, and black pepper was used in it. Moreover, black pepper has many medicinal usages also. To your knowledge, that I hope you must have heard about one of the very common disease, and nowadays it has become very common when people have started using the public loos, then public washrooms. Then, so what is that? UTI, urinary tract infection. Public scenario में ज़्यादा बढ़ जाता है. So it is one of the oldest disease known to the humanity. And what was the initial remedy of this particular disease? That black pepper was soaked in the vinegar. It was left overnight, and that's what was used in the entire Europe to get relief from this particular UTI. So that's how it was used. Then what about other things? So I hope all of you must have heard about the mummies. Okay, not your own mummy. Okay, mummies of the Egypt. Then, so mummies of the Egypt, they are known for the process which is called as embalming. See, what is embalming? The process of preserving the dead body. That is called as embalming process. And these mummies were embalmed from thousands and thousands years. They are preserved. You know that what is one of the preservant, that the preserver in this particular mummies? When the analysis is done on the dead bodies of the mummies, their nostrils, their ear openings, mouth openings, anus openings, every opening and the entire gut part, digestive system, was filled with the black pepper. Then, so black pepper was also used in it. So this was a commodity which actually changed the world order then, and it was the native of India. So Europeans were always in the need of these spices and the biodiverse item. Cotton was the native of India, as you know, that for the first time cotton was grown in the Indus Valley civilization. In fact, in the beginning, the name of the cotton was Sindon. Then, and what is Sindon? Sindhu Valley. Then, so the plant which emerged in the Sindhu Valley was called as Sindon. Then, so that's how the name was given. So cotton is a gift of India to the world. So these all things were there, and obviously everybody needs it. So Europeans were coming to India, but then what was the route? So route was partial sea and partial land. Thoda sea and thoda land. So for example, I will create maps also in the classes, but then our scope thoda kam hai. So as you can see, it's very small. India, so from here they are going to this sea part, then land part, then once again, this is, so which sea? Mediterranean Sea, and then to the Europe. So partial land and partial sea route used to be there. Moreover, एक और road थी, Silk Route, created by the Chinese from their Yunnan province to Italy, to the Rome. So that was also used for the trade. But then this was a costly process, very costly process, and then the commodities were changing many hands. So for example, that Indians had a very good trade with the Arab world because it was very natural, all sea route, and then it is easy to come from the Arabian part of the world to India. So Arabians were the first people who purchased the commodities from India. But then from Arabians, Europeans are purchasing. Okay? Have you heard about the merchants of Venice and Geneva? एक बहुत फेमस इवन टाइटल भी है written by Shakespeare. Then so merchants of Venice and Geneva, why they are often talked about, because they were the one who were purchasing from the upper that European part of the world, and then they were selling it to the Europe. So if a commodity, अगर जो ये production पे ये commodity 1 रुपए का है, तो if it changes 3 hands, so it will become 3 rupees, 5 rupees, 4 rupees. पैसा तो that price change हो जाएगा. So that's how the prices of the commodities were becoming many-fold in the European part of the world. And the reality is that whatever be the cost of a commodity in India, if it is 1 rupee, so it was turning out to be 100 rupees in the Europe. Europe जाते जाते 100 रुपए का हो जाता था. It was a very costly thing. So that's why many of the Indian commodities were not afforded by the common people of the Europe. So that's how in the 15th century, a new endeavor started in the Europe, that majority of the European kingdoms and the European kings, they wanted to find an alternative and direct sea route to India. So in this endeavor, Spain and Portugal were the foremost. So they started patronizing the seafaring or sea adventure activity to find direct sea route to India. So Spanish Queen Isabella, she funded Columbus, but Columbus landed somewhere else. And where he landed? West Indies. Okay? So he landed in North Americas, but then he called it West Indies, okay? West ka India. Then after the Portuguese king, Prince Henry the Navigator, started to promote the seafaring activities. And finally, after 2-3 attempts, it was Vasco da Gama, okay, who finally landed in India. But his route was that first he came to Cape of Good Hope, and that is Cape Town of the South Africa today. And then from Cape of Good Hope to he came to a place called Malindi in today's Somalia. And from Somalia, there was one Gujarati pilot who guided him to come to India. Then his name was Abdul Majid. And then finally he landed in Calicut. Then so Calicut in Kerala. So Calicut in Kerala. So in Kerala, in May 1498, when he landed in Kerala, so he was welcomed by the local rulers of the Kerala, local rulers of Calicut, it's to precise, local rulers of the Calicut who is known as Zamorins. Okay? So Zamorins welcomed, and then after the direct sea trade started with the Portugal, okay, from 1498. So for next 100 years, understand that 1498 to that near about 1600, the trade was dominated by the Portuguese. Okay? That Indian direct sea trade was dominated by the Portuguese. So Portuguese are purchasing the Indian commodities. They are taking it to the Portugal, and Portugal se baki ke Europe mein it was distributed. Then so now earlier the commodity prices used to be 1 rupees ka 100 rupees. Now it is becoming 1 rupees 60 rupees. Then so little bit of cut in the prices, and in Europe also now people are able to afford it. But still it is very high. 1 rupees is turning into the 60 rupees. So the other European countries like Dutch, okay, Netherlands, and so as the British and so as the French, they were also interested to come to India to cut on these profit, which is gained by the Portuguese, and then they must gain the profit. Another endeavor of all these companies, not only to earn profit from the trade, but also to popularize Christianity. Okay? So with these two purposes, in fact, there are 3 purposes. It is often called as God, gold, and glory. That was the intention of the Europeans to come to India. And what is God is the Christianity, gold is the profit, and what is glory? When you dominate an area, so then you will be glorified. Then so increase your own prestige. So with these all intentions, they have come to India. So initially, these Europeans, they have come for the purpose of the exploration. They have come for the purpose of the exploration, but then the lines between the exploration and the exploitation blurred, and then what it became? Exploitation of the natives of this particular country. And this exploitation led to the birth of the imperialism and the colonialism. And finally, India was colonized, and in a due course of time, that in a 400 span of the year, India was completely a slave of the European company in the beginning, ठीक है, that is British East India Company, and later on by the British Crown. So after the Portuguese arrival, who were the next to arrive? Dutch. After the Dutch were English, ठीक है, so English, and then last were the French, ठीक है. बीच में Danish East India Company was also there then, but it was a very small company, no such big impact in India, but we'll talk about it when the course is there. So these companies, they have arrived in India, and moreover that by the end of the 1700, Portuguese influence is declining in India, not completely, but then it has started declining in India, and British East India Company and French East India Company has started to improve their positions in India. So in 1740s, they will start fighting with each other. That these two powers, British East India Company and French East India Company, they will start fighting with each other. And moreover, in this fight, when they are going to fight with each other, so they are also involving two regional kingdoms of India, and one the Carnatic and other is the Hyderabad. So these two Indian kingdoms were involved in the fight with the British and French, and finally it is the British who were victorious then, and they increased their influence in Hyderabad, and they started to control the Carnatic politics also. So by 1760, British East India Company has become the most important, okay, and the only colonial power in India by the end of 1763. So we'll discuss that what is this, that what was the Treaty of Paris, and then how the British East India Company became the sole colonial power in India. So that is the Advent story. Now let's come to the second part, this 18th century. So एक तरफ European companies have arrived in India, they are consolidating their position in India. Now let's come to the decline of Mughals and the later Mughals. So the initial Mughals, Zahiruddin Babur, then after Humayun, Jalaluddin Akbar, and so as the Jahangir and Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. They are often referred as the mighty Mughal emperors. Mighty from in terms of their power and authority that they wielded. Then, so mighty Mughal emperors, and in fact that Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, their rule was much productive for the Mughal Empire. So they slowly, it all started from the period of the Akbar, that expansion of the Mughal Empire is happening, and then by the time of the Aurangzeb, it has reached its climax. So Aurangzeb was almost controlling near about 80% part of the Indian subcontinent. Then, so they were called as the mighty Mughal emperor. But then, because of the many such things which Aurangzeb, many such initiatives that Aurangzeb has taken, then and Aurangzeb has initiated. So then what happened? Because of it, that a slow decline of the Mughal has started. His death happened in 1707, and that is the time when the decline of the Mughal is starting. Okay? So the Mughals who controlled 80% area of India in 1707, by 1760, 80% area became only 20-kilometer directly ruled area, where in Delhi. Then, so it is said about the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, who was from 1760 to 1806, that Sultanate Shah Alam Aj Dilli Te Palam, meaning that the directly controlled area of the Sultan, that Emperor Shah Alam starts from Delhi to Palam. Okay? Starts from Delhi. Delhi means Old Delhi, that is Chandni Chowk, Chowdi Bazaar, Red Fort area, and starting from this area and ended at Palam. Where is Palam? Indira Gandhi International Airport. So that is the only 20-kilometer area which was directly controlled by them. So such was the rapid decline of the Mughals in this particular 50 years. Then, so there are n number of the reasons that why decline happened. We will see in the part. But then, why we call the rulers as the later Mughal emperors? Are they not the blood of the Mughals? They are. They are the blood of the Mughals. They are the sons of the Aurangzeb only. Then, but they are called as later Mughal because they were not mighty. They were not powerful. And they were not powerful, they were not authoritative, and they were not able to hold up everything which was there. Then, so it's not about how to build the fortunes. It's also about how to preserve the fortune. अमीर तो बहुत लोग बन जाते हैं. अमीर रहने पे जमीन पे जो रहते हैं वही टिकते हैं. So this is what was the problem which happened, that when they have reached to a climax stage, and then the decline started. The reason of the decline is that they were not strong military commanders, then they were not good administrators, and unfortunately, majority of them were characterless also. So we will see that, and specific, if we are using the word characterless, it is a very extreme word. It is to be avoided, but then it is a reality that majority of them were characterless. And why? All the time they were indulged in the sexual pleasure, only sexual pleasure. So when you are indulged in so much of sexual pleasure, so how come you look after the administration? Then only one thing, 3-letter word is there in your mind, so then you cannot do the administration. Then, so that was unfortunate thing for the Mughal rule, that because of it, it started to decline. And moreover, there are many such nobles in the Mughal court, darbaris or ministers, then who have their own aspiration to become more powerful. So that is also leading to the decline. So this Mughal dynasty, 1707, Aurangzeb's death, and 1857, end of the Mughal rule from India. The last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar. Then, so we'll listen to their story, we'll talk about them, that what happened during their period and what are the initiatives that they have taken, which did not augured well for their own rule. And then understand one of the reason. So now, on one hand, later Mughals. What is this rise of the regional powers? Isko dhyan se samajhna. The rise of the regional powers, that when the Mughal rulers, they themselves are not so capable, not so powerful, not so authoritative. So then the nobles or the darbaris or important ministers, they will gain the power, or power will get concentrated in their hands. So after the Mughal monarch, king ke baad, the most important position was Wazir, the prime minister of the kingdom. So Wazir was the second most, or that just after the king, he was most important, and majority of the time, all the powers were concentrated in the hands of the Wazir. Moreover, when we talk about that, what all type of the nobles were there in the Mughal court, so origin wise, okay, descent wise, there were 4 type of the nobles. So those nobles who has Turkish origin, okay, they were called as Turani nobles. Those who were Persian origin, Irani nobles. Then, and those who were Afghanistan origin, Afghani noble. And then there was one more category, Hindustani nobles. So Hindustani ka matlab Indian origin Muslims of the Mughal court. So all these groups, they were always infighting with each other. सबके आपस में झगड़े रहते थे. They were infighting with each other. Why so? All of them wanted to become powerful. All of them wanted to capture the position of the Wazir. So there was an internal friction between them also. And some of these nobles, they went on to create the regional powers, meaning that they are carving out semi-independent autonomous territory for themselves, meaning that ki Mughal empire se hi naya empire bana liya. Then, and what were these new empires which were created by the Mughal nobles? Bengal. In 1717, one of the Mughal governor, Murshid Quli Khan, led the foundation of the new state of Bengal. Then, in 1722, one of the Mughal governor, Sadat Khan. Then, so Sadat Khan founded Awadh. And in 1724, one of the Mughal governor, his name was Chin Kilich Khan Asaf Jah. So he founded Hyderabad. So that's how 3 new kingdoms emerged from the. Don't interrupt. It's a story part. So it's a request. Don't. Story part. I don't entertain anybody in this part because story. This is history. If you'll be interrupting, na, तो my story is gone. And I'm not looking at any page or anything. So ये ध्यान रखना इस बात को. Classes में जो पूछना है, that will be there. ठीक है? And I'll guide you in that regard. So done. So now understand. I have forgotten. मैं भी कभी-कभी मेरा भी दिमाग गजनी हो जाता है actually. तो कोई मुझे याद दिलाओ मैं क्या बात कर रहा था. Hyderabad, ठीक है? So these 3 states were founded by, these 3 new kingdoms were founded by these nobles of the Mughals. Then, but then uske alawa, there were many kingdoms which were erstwhile they were free kingdom, meaning pehle they were free kingdom, but then Aurangzeb captured their areas. Then, so Aurangzeb captured their areas, and then after the Aurangzeb's death, they reasserted and reestablished their autonomy and independence. Then, so they reasserted their reestablished their autonomy and independence, and these were the successor, that there are the rebellious states of the Mughal. So they are called as Maratha area, Mysore area, and Punjab. So these areas पहले से ही independent kingdom थे, but Aurangzeb has captured it, and after the death of Aurangzeb, once again they became free. So these were a new type of the states which also emerged from the Mughal territory itself. So now there are two types of the regional powers which are emerging. One which is founded by the Mughal nobles itself, and one which was already free, but Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb has captured, and after his death, once again they have become free. Mysore, Maratha, and this particular and Punjab part. So these were the regional powers. So now with the rise of the regional powers also, the power of the Mughals are declining. Okay? But then now let's look at the third heading, rise of the British East India Company. Okay? So rise of the British East India Company. So how many companies we mentioned? Pehla, so Portuguese were the first to come, then after Dutch East India Company, then British East India Company, Danish East India Company, and French East India Company. But out of these all European powers, it is the British and the French in the 18th century, they were strongest. And if you look at the world history scenario, so British were the biggest colonizers of the world. Then, so British were the biggest colonizers of the world. How many colonies they created? 55 colonies they created in the world. And the second biggest colonizer were the French. They created 35 colonies. Then, so these are the biggest powers in the 1740s. So in 1740s, they themselves are fighting, and as I mentioned, Carnatic wars. So in Carnatic area, they were fighting, and that's why the war was called as Carnatic War. And in this fight, finally, 3 fights happened, and the third fight, thoroughly French were defeated, and British emerged as the sole colonial power in India and sole imperial power in India. Now it is for British to build their empire after 1760s. Then, so French will be no more relevant. And what about the others? So we'll see their story, that how their decline has happened, why Dutch did not pursue much in India, and so as how the Portuguese, their influence is also starting to decline. So now, when British have emerged as the only colonial power, and then there are 3 dimensions in it. So what is the 3 dimension in this topic itself? Give me 1 minute. So there would be the confrontation between all of them. Okay? So confrontation or the fight between all of them, involving all of them. So fight of the British with the Mughals. Okay? Fight of the British with the regional powers. So one of the very important fight of the British with the Mughal is the Battle of Buxar. We'll see, okay, in which the Mughal emperor was defeated. But then important is the regional fight. Then, so regional fight, that fight of the British with these regional powers. So let's understand in this particular topic, what are the areas. So let's, I'm mentioning few things. Bengal, then after Bengal, Mysore, and then Maratha and Punjab. So Hyderabad, Carnatic are already there in the Carnatic Wars, but then these area. So there is a very popular saying, isko samajhna. Popular saying is that both British and French wanted to create their colonial empire in India. And initially their strongholds were there in the Tamil Nadu. The 2 areas which were the headquarters of the British and French. British headquarter was Madras and French headquarter was Pondicherry. And in fact, French were the first to start many of the new strategies in India. So French idea in the beginning was that if they consolidate their position in the Madras, in Tamil Nadu area, so they will control India. But then British were also fighting in the Madras, but they were also exploring in the other areas. And the one of the most important other area was the Bengal. Okay? So Bengal. And Bengal was the richest province of India at that time. So there is a one British historian, he has written about this incident. His name is Will Smith. Okay? So interesting name. So Will Smith has written that while the French were trying to find the key of India in Madras, British found it in Bengal. Then, so that's how British were able to further expand. So on one hand, British are fighting with the French in the Carnatic area. On the other hand, from 1756, they started to interfere in the politics of the Bengal. And this intervention of the British from 1756, initially it led to Battle of Plassey. Okay? So Battle of Plassey in 1756. 57. Okay. So in this battle of Palasi, the Bengal ruler Sirajuddaulah was captured and killed, and then after, British started to indirectly control the Bengal politics. And when they are controlling it, so in 1764, so 1764, finally the Battle of Buxar happened. And in the Battle of Buxar, then ruler Nawab of the Bengal, Mir Qasim, was thoroughly defeated. But then in this Battle of Buxar, Mughal Emperor Shah Alam was also there, and so as the Awadh ruler Sujauddaulah. So actually, this Battle of the Buxar decided the fate of the three kingdoms, Awadh, Mughal, and so as the Bengal. All has come under the control of the British after the end of this particular war. Then, so Bengal episode got settled in 1765 itself, and Bengal was the first province where the direct rule of the British started from 1773 onwards. Then after their episode is completed in the Bengal, then they are moving to, British are going to pay the attention to Mysore. So Mysore originally, that under the Wadiyar dynasty, and 1761 Hyder Ali became the ruler of the Mysore. So now Hyder Ali has a very good friendship with the French, and moreover with the French support, he has created many weapon factories in the Mysore area. What happened, that British were obviously arch rivals of the French, and then after in 1767 the fight with the Mysore started. So total 4 wars were fought between the British and the Mysore rulers. So very first one started in 1767. The second one started in 1780, third one started in 1790, and the fourth one 1799. In the initial 2 battles, Hyder Ali was fighting with the British, and the last 2 battles, his son Tipu Sultan was fighting with the British. Then, so 1790 and 99. But then 1799, Tipu Sultan was thoroughly defeated and killed. But then Mysore mein, you have to remember that Mysore fight was not just between the British and Mysore, but it was between British, Mysore, and from the side of the British, they were the supporters, and the supporters were Maratha, Nizam, and Travancore ruler. Then, so many other regional kingdoms were also siding with the British. The reason was that Mysore had confrontation with these all regional powers. Then, so it is a multiple fight which is happening over here, but unfortunately in 1799, Tipu Sultan is captured and he is killed. Then, so then British control in Mysore is established by 1799. Then after comes, the story comes to the Maratha. Story comes to the Maratha, and Maratha, so Marathas were militarily, if the Bengal was the richest province of India, so Marathas were militarily strongest people in India, military wise. So they had the strongest army, and in fact their techniques of the fighting was one of the best. Then, so British took little bit of time to do the preparation to fight with the Marathas. Then, and they were waiting for the opportune time to fight with the Marathas. So what was the opportune time? The defeat of the Marathas with the hands of the Abdali. What is that? Third Battle of Panipat in 1761. It led to the decline of the Maratha power. And from after it, it is said that though from the Panipat, third Panipat battle, Maratha were defeated, Abdali did not benefited, okay? But who got the benefit? British. And then British are preparing to fight with the Marathas. So the first war with the Maratha started in 1775, and then it continued. So the total 3 wars were there. By the 1819, in the 3 wars, Marathas were thoroughly defeated, and the Peshwa's dominion in 1819, it was taken over by the British East India Company. So now, by 1819, they are controlling the Maratha area also. And then comes the Punjab. So, Punjab was the land of the Sikhism, okay? The Sikh Gurus. The initial adventure of the Sikh Gurus, or advent of the Sikh Gurus, basically, it started from the Lodhi period. Then Guru Nanak, okay, the first Sikh Guru, he was the contemporary of the Lodhis. And then after the entire Mughal period, 9 other Sikh Gurus, they came to being. So Punjab was the land of the Sikh Gurus. But then after the death of the last Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, So Guru Gobind Singh. So Punjab got divided into many small confederacies then, and these confederacies were not so powerful when they are disunited. So in 1790, there was a person whose name was Ranjit Singh. So Ranjit Singh persuaded all those small confederacies, and then he collected all the confederacies to found the new state of the Punjab, and he became Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Then, so Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So now Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a wise person, and he knew that British are the biggest power in India right now. So rather than irritating them, he friended them. Then, and with the British support, he went on to create one of the strongest army of the Indian subcontinent. So till the time of the Maharaja Ranjit Singh, there was no confrontation between the British and the Maharaja. Then British also respected. Okay? But then when his death happened in 1839, British started to interfere in the Punjab politics also. And such was the rapid deterioration in the Punjab condition that after the death of Maharaja in 1839, okay, and then the first war with the British happened in 1845, and the second war happened in the 1849. So 1849, the Khalsa army of the Punjab was thoroughly defeated and routed, and the British captured which area? The Punjab also. So now, what 80% was there with the Aurangzeb, that 80% area of the India is under the control of the British East India Company. So it is a private company which is controlling this much land of the India. That's how they have built their empire by this time. But understand, these were the big fights which we are talking about. But then there are many smaller fights also, whereby the locals of India, the tribals of India, the civil peasantry of India, they have also organized revolts against the British authority in between 1770 to 1857. So there would be n number of the civil and tribal revolts which is happening against the British authority. So after the completion of this topic, we talk about those civil and tribal fights with the British. And finally, the final culmination of all these fights is the 1857 revolt. So the next big title is 1857 revolt. So now I'm writing over here the third title. Give me 1 minute. So the third title is the 1857 revolt. So now understand, what is there in the 1857 revolt? It is the middle point of the Indian history or modern Indian history. So middle event. So 1857 revolt, it is said that it was the final culmination of all the fights which has happened previously. Okay? So previously that many regional kingdom fight, and so as the civil and tribal uprising. But then finally, so what is the reason that why 1857 revolt happened? So a glimpse of it, not the entire, obviously we cannot cover today. So glimpse is that British have created a very big army in India, and the composition of this army was more than 80% were Indians in the British army. Near about 15 to 16% only were the Britishers, and all of them were in an officer position, and Indians were in a sepoy position. So when it comes to 1857 revolt, there were already underlying conditions of the exploitation, okay, of the Indians, but then हमेशा किसी झगड़े के लिए एक वजह चाहिए होती है, immediate वजह. We call it immediate factor or precipitating factor. So for example, that you must have seen it, that two neighbors क्या, always the neighbors are jealous of each other. ठीक है? Very rare that you find a very good neighbor. Then so that they will be, in fact, once you get selected, your neighbor will be मतलब जल भुन के राख हो जाएंगे. But then obviously झगड़ा करने के लिए कोई वजह चाहिए. Suppose that you have got rank 1. Your neighbors are like कि अरे चलो बहुत बढ़िया हुआ, ठीक है, अंदर कुछ और जल रहा है, बाहर कुछ और दिख रहा है, and then finally they want to fight with you. So your family, so what happened, one fine day rain happened, and then one of the outlet from your roof, that the rain water is falling on their land, and then after they found the reason, अब झगड़ा करेंगे, ठीक है. So this is what happened, that's what is called as that कि सब कुछ है, सब condition है झगड़े की, लेकिन कोई एक initiator चाहिए. So what was the initiator over here? Understand that earlier in the British army, okay, that the rifle which was used, it was called as brown bess musket. Okay, so this was the name of the old rifle, and now this old rifle was changed with the new rifle, which is known as Enfield rifle. Okay, so Enfield rifle. And why was this change? So as believed that this Enfield rifle had a greater range and greater accuracy. Okay, so greater range and greater accuracy. So this was changed. Problem नए rifle में introduction से नहीं था. What was the problem? Problem was that in this new rifle, the cartridge which was to be filled. What is cartridge? The one which will have bullets. Okay, so the cartridge which was to be filled, that cartridge, as it is said, that it was coated with a paper. ठीक है, एक पेपर से लपेटा हुआ था. And that paper, as it is said, that this paper was smeared with cow fat and pig fat. ठीक है, so this cow fat is not the that normal ghee and butter. ठीक है, it is a flesh fat. So flesh fat, and pig fat is also the flesh fat. So this cow fat and pig fat which was smeared on it, and moreover sepoys were instructed that while operating they will have to bite off this paper. Okay, and then after biting off the paper they will load it in the rifle. So this incident, this actually hurted the religious sentiments of both Hindu and Muslim sepoys. Then, so Hindu sepoys, cow fat, it is tantamounting to beef, and Muslim sepoys, pig fat, tantamounting to pork. Then, and as you know, in Hinduism, beef is not welcome, and in Islam, pork is not welcome. So the religious sentiments of the sepoys were hurt, and the sepoys, they refused to use the grease cartridges. Initially they were disbanded from the army, meaning कि services se nikal diya in the beginning. But later on, one incident happened in the Calcutta area, Barakpur area of the Calcutta. There was one sepoy, his name was Mangal Pandey. Mangal Pandey went a step further and he killed his commanding officer. Then after this incident, the British stance became very hard. Okay? And moreover, after this incident, whichever place, if the sepoys are refusing to use the grease cartridges, so then they were not only disbanded from the services, they were tried by the military court, which is called as court martial, and then they were given hard punishment. Similar incident happened in the Meerut, whereby the sepoys were given 10-year hard imprisonment just for refusing the use of the bullet. It is too much, and there, so it all started from the Meerut, that when they were given 10-year imprisonment, so the other sepoys who were not given punishment, they also felt humiliated, and they are the one who freed their inmates, and then by the evening they have killed all the commanding officers in the Meerut, and next morning, that was exactly 10th of May, they have killed all the commanding officer, 1857, and 11th May they reached to Delhi and they started the mutiny in the name of the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar. So the mutiny continued, which had many heroes, Rani Lakshmi Bai, then Begum Hazrat Mahal, then the other names were Nana Sahib, then Tantia Tope, Maulavi Ahmadullah. So these all personalities are the part of it. We will discuss about them in very detail in the classes. But then unfortunately, this particular fight was suppressed. Okay? There are n number of the reasons, and that was related to the central leadership, and the weaknesses were many, and finally by 1800, middle of the 1858, the revolt was suppressed. So though the revolt was a failure, but it was not a complete failure. The reason is that before the revolt, India was the land of the thousand of monarchies, and people's loyalty were there towards their monarchy. There was no such pan-India sense of the nationalism, but this revolt implanted the sense of the pan-India nationalism, and that's how the nationalistic feelings are going to emerge after the 1857 revolt. And in between 1857 to 1885, hell lot of awareness campaigns are there in India, different parts of India, and finally in 1885 these awareness campaign will lead to the foundation of the Indian National Congress. And as it is said that with the foundation of the Indian National Congress, the freedom struggle, the phases of the freedom struggle started. So this is 50%, 45% of our syllabus. Ab dhyan se samajhna. So till 1847, 57, it is 45% of our syllabus. And rest of the 45% is the, not rest of, the other 45% is the freedom struggle. What about 10%? 10% is the socio-religious reform. So I'm not discussing in today's event, but jab tak. So understand one more thing, that the way I'm telling you the story, in the similar way the classes would be there. इसी टाइटल्स के साथ ऐसे ही क्लासेस भी मूव होंगे, यही थीम्स होंगे, ठीक है. सो देयर वुड बी नो सच contradiction between the today's story and the way the story will move in the classes. So after the completion of this part, I will go into the socio-religious reform, ठीक है. So socio-religious reform को हम दो classes देंगे, ठीक है. And in this socio-religious reform part, we will discuss the reforms in Hinduism, Islam, and Sikhism and Parsi religion. Okay, so 4 religions we'll be discussing over here, reforms in each and every religion. And then after we talk about the freedom struggle. So let's move to the freedom struggle story. So next is freedom struggle. Now what I wrote in the beginning, non-violent and the violent methods. So I will write something over here which is related to violent and non-violent methods. Then just 1 minute. So freedom struggle may see that there are 2 type of the movements. Right? So one would be the non-violent movements. Non-violent movements. And second would be the violent movements. And both are going side by side, as we mentioned. On one hand, Gandhi is with his non-violence idea, but then the revolutionaries are going with the violent ideas. So it will be side by side, एक साथ में ही हो रहा है दोनों. Then we'll see the phases. But let's start with the non-violent ideas. So the very first one, ठीक है? इसमें और कुछ लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, just understand. So very first is the foundation of the Congress. So in 1885, Congress was founded, and who were the important authorities in the foundation of the Congress? Allen Octavian Hume, the retired British civil servant A.O. Hume. Okay? So retired British civil servant A.O. Hume, and moreover, there were the Indian nationalists also, those people who have created this awareness campaign between 1857 to 1885. So some of the big names were Dadabhai Naoroji, Surendranath Banerjee, Firoz Shah Mehta, K.T. Telang, Badruddin Tayyabji. Then, so these all personalities, Mahadev Govind Ranade, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, okay? So these all personalities, they are the part of this particular foundation of the Congress. Then, so it is said that with the foundation of the Congress, Indian freedom struggle entered into the moderate phase of the freedom struggle. So the very first phase is called as moderate phase. Why we give this name moderate? Because the methods of the leaders of that time were moderate. And what is moderate method? So the initial nationalists of India, they did not believe in the mass movement. What they believed in the prayer, petitions, okay, and sending memorials to the British authority. And constitutional agitation. What is constitutional agitation? So the legislative assemblies which were created by the British for the ruling of India. So in those assemblies itself, protest and movement, constitutional agitation. Okay? So they resorted to these methods, and they were of the view that the first and the foremost thing is to be done in India is to create awareness. ठीक है, जब तक लोगों में अवेयरनेस नहीं होगी तब तक मास मूवमेंट विल नॉट बी सक्सेसफुल. सो दैट्स व्हाई दे नेवर इनिशिएटेड मास मूवमेंट. देन so the very first phase of the freedom struggle, moderate phase, was between 1885 to 1905. So now understand that there are many other leaders who are joining the Congress then, and they are not coinciding, or they are not very much agreeing with the methods of the moderate leaders. Meaning that these leaders are the one who are saying that kab tak, after all, how much time you will be begging to the British authority that ki mujhe ye de do, mujhe wo de do, give me more political right, give me this political right. They were like that in our own country, we have been reduced to the status of the beggar. Then that we have to ask for our own rights in our own country. Then, so these leaders of the Congress, they came to be known as extremist leaders. And who were the extremist leaders? Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai, whom we mentioned in the story in the beginning, and then that they were called as Lal Bal Pal. So Bal Gangadhar Tilak, then Lal Lajpat Rai, Bipin Chandra Pal, and it also included Aurobindo Ghosh. Then, so Aurobindo Ghosh and V.O. Chidambaram Pillai also. So these were the extremist leaders. Now, 1905 mein, okay, in 1905, one event happened. And what is the event? Event is partition of Bengal. So that is the time when the Viceroy of the Bengal, his name was Viceroy Curzon. So Curzon has made a statement. Dhyan se sunna. Curzon made a statement because all the initial underpinnings of the Indian national movement were from Bengal. So statement was, Bengal united is a strength, Bengal divided will fall off in many ways. Okay? So he clearly wanted to divide the Bengal. So how he divided the Bengal? He announced the division of the Bengal on communal line. Okay? So he created two Bengals, East Bengal, West Bengal, and East Bengal Muslim majority population and West Bengal Hindu majority population. For the first time in the history of India, such was the communal divide. Even this kind of divide was not there in the medieval ages then. So such was, it is the first manifestation, and from here starts the British adventure of divide and rule policy in India. It was very well received by the Indian leaders, and then they decided to react against it. And this is the time when the extremist leaders of the Congress, they have said that ki bahut ho gaya prayer and petition. Let's go into the mass movement. Then let's go with the boycott. Let's go with the promotion of the India-made things, Swadeshi, and boycott the British manufactured goods. And this is how the movement started, Swadeshi and boycott movement from 1905. Now, so what was the idea of the Swadeshi and boycott movement? Boycott the British made goods and use the Indian made goods. Swadeshi matlab Indian made goods. So that's how the Indian made things were promoted and British made things were boycotted. But then you understand, human nature, okay, is the most difficult to understand then, and human nature is not very predictable. So even if all of them are nationalists, they have a common cause that they all want that India to become free from the rule of the British, exploitative rule of the British. But then, you know, there are personal dynamics also. Might be that you two, that it's similar, that many of you two are sitting together, you want to clear the exam, but then when it comes to the preparation of the exam, you two may become enemies. That is possible. Then that was the case in the moderate and the extremist case. So extremist leaders were becoming more popular at this point of time. Obviously, उनके ideas भी ऐसे थे कि popular, and in fact the youth of India will not go with the moderate, they will go with the extremists. Because youth of India will say कि क्यों हम अपनी ही country में भीख मांगे? Then why we must be begging in our countries, and our own country, we must fight for it. So they were becoming more popular, and as such, the moderate leaders were not able to gulp the popularity of the extremist leaders, and यहाँ से शुरुआत होती है जलन की, ठीक है? And then they became jealous of the moderate leaders, and moreover, there were many such designs against the moderate leaders. Now understand, Congress organization में एक बहुत important position थी, and that was the position of the Congress president. So, and annually this election used to happen in the annual session of the Congress, and he had a hell lot of powers. So both the factions wanted, moderate and extremists, कि हमारा बंदा president बनेगा. But then in 1907, due to the conspiracy of the moderate leader, the session was about to be held in Nagpur, but Nagpur से इन्हें transfer कर दिया सूरत में, ठीक है? And in Surat, a moderate leader whose name was Ras Bihari Ghosh. There are two Ras Bihari in the Indian history, important people. One is the Ras Bihari Bose, and this person is the Ras Bihari Ghosh. So Ras Bihari Ghosh, okay, he was such a, though he was moderate leader, but his attitude was more extreme. So when the session started, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he took a paper, okay, and from that paper he started reading the speech. But then Ras Bihari Ghosh did not allow him, and then he in fact abused Tilak. After that, the followers of the Tilak, okay, they were also not finding it good. And then the moderate leaders, they came with the stick to charge on the Tilak. You may not believe that this must have happened with the Indian nationalist. And you may not believe the second incident also, that such was the acrimony, bitterness between the two factions, that in this particular that session itself, there was a street fight between them. Okay, joote, chappal, kursi, मेज जो चलना था सब चला. And I'm not exaggerating, that was a reality. And in fact, there is a very famous chappal case in this one. The chappal case is that one of the extremist follower, he raised the chappal on Ras Bihari Ghosh, and chappal hit Firoz Shah Mehta. And Firoz Shah Mehta took it dil pe, okay? And you know na, that there are few things in the life जो महसूस करने पे ज़्यादा लगती है, वो है गर्मी और बेइज्जती. Then so he took it on hurt, and then बाद में, when both the factions want to meet each other, united each other, it was Firoz Shah Mehta who always used to say कि ये तभी हो पाएगा जब मेरी मृत्यु होगी, ठीक है. When I will be dying, then only they will be united. He was like that, रोग फारत की ये शादी तभी होगी जब मैं मर जाऊंगा. So then, and it happened also. वो मर गए और दोनों united हो गए, ठीक है, in 1916. So anyways, so now understand, so this event led to the division in the Congress, and division is called as the very famous Surat split. Then, so after the Surat split, understand, British were the one who were most happy. Okay? So British were the one who were most happy, and what they did, that they started to give bait, meaning chara, to the moderate leaders, appeasement to the moderate leaders, कि आप लोग हमारे साथ cooperate करो, you cooperate with us, and then we'll be coming up with the more political reforms, whatever you are demanding, we will meet those demands in the 1909. But then, what they did with the extremist leader, false cases were created against the extremist leaders, and all of them were arrested and they were put into the jail. Then, so for example, that Tilak was deported to the Mandale jail for 6 years in 1908. Then Lajpat Rai, he was sent to the jail for 1 year. Bipin Chandra Paul and V.O. Chidambaram Pillai for 6 months. And Aurobindo was tried in the court, but then Aurobindo was very well defended by Chittaranjan Das, a very young lawyer, but then he defended it very well. So Chittaranjan Das was able to defend Aurobindo, and Aurobindo was not sent to the jail in all the leaders. The rest of them were sent to the jail. On the other hand, in 1909, British government came up with the Morley-Minto reforms. Then, and this is also called as the Indian Council Act of the 1909. So there are many things, but I'm just talking about the divide and rule part in this one. इसको ध्यान से समझना. That one of the feature of the Morley-Minto reform is the announcement of the separate electorate for the Muslim masses. Then, what is separate electorate, that you need to understand. So, and how it is different from the reservation in today's class itself, I'm that maintaining. So, मान लो, for a case, okay? We are in right now Karol Bagh. Suppose if Karol Bagh is declared in the Lok Sabha election that it is a separate electorate. So what does it mean? It means, ध्यान से समझना, if it is declared, Karol Bagh is declared that separate electorate for the Muslims, so it means that the candidates who will be fighting the election, they will be only Muslims, like reservation. But then, how it is different from the reservation? Reservation में candidate जो होगा वो Muslim होंगे, but then voters सभी community से. All the eligible voters from Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, every section of the society will be casting their vote. But in separate electorate, the candidate is Muslim and voter is also Muslim. No matter how many Hindus are there in the Karol Bagh, how many Sikh are there in the Karol Bagh, they will not be entitled to vote. Only Muslims will be voting for the Muslim. So this is what was the issue. Once again, divide and rule. क्यों? क्योंकि when Muslims will be voting for the Muslim, but constituency में Hindu भी रह रहे हैं, Christians are also there, Sikh are also there, so they will feel that it is because of the Muslim community they have conspired with the British, and that's why they are getting this benefit. So जानबूझ के एक enmity पैदा करेंगे ये, देखिए, they will be creating an enmity between the Hindu and Muslim community, and that's how they are the one who planted the seed of the communalism in the Indian history. Then, and in fact, such strong was this seed of the hatred and communalism that it still continues even till this date many a times. Then, so all the responsibility, and in fact, they were the father of the communalism in India. So now this is not a good thing. And once, एक बार और सोचने वाली बात ये है that if the Muslim community has been given separate electorate, so बाद में आगे जाके other communities will also be asking for the separate electorate, and that's how Indian society, first it is divided on the basis of the Hindu and Muslim, but then it will be divided on the basis of the Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, and then it come to Hinduism. So Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So division जब एक बार start होता है, when it starts, so it does not stops at one place, it continues in the many forms. So the division will continue, and when the Indian society would be divided, so who would be ruling? Who would be in benefit? The British. Okay? So they will gain the benefit of it. So that was unfortunate. Now, moderate leaders who cooperated with the British at this time, they felt that they are cheated. Okay? And moreover, who is responsible for it? They themselves were responsible for it because they cooperated with the British. Then, and that's how. In 1911, okay, so British government do a kind of that they tried to conciliate their problem, and once again Bengal was united, but then two new states were created, that is Bihar and Odisha. Okay, so anyways, there is more discussion related to it, but we are not keeping it over here. Now understand, 1914 Tilak was released from the jail, and when Tilak was released from the jail, so in 1914 he comes back to India, And then after once again he wanted to start these political activities and create the awareness in India. By this point of time, socio-religious reforms say, we read about one personality. The personality was the Mrs. Annie Besant. And Mrs. Annie Besant was, so she was the member of the Theosophical Society of India then, and she was also there in India, and she is there from 1893. So she has become more of an Indian, and she was a lady from Ireland. Ireland was the colony of the Britain. So she has seen the pains of the colonialism, and she empathized with the Indians, and she became more of an Indian. So Mrs. Annie Besant and Tilak both wanted to start a movement, and the name of the movement was Home Rule Movement. So they initiated Home Rule Movement in 1916. But उसके अलावा एक और बात है. Before going into it, that on one hand Swadeshi boycott is going on. On the other hand, 1905 से 1915 के बीच में, when the Swadeshi boycott is going on, so revolutionary nationalism has also happened. ठीक है? So revolutionary nationalism phase 1. Let me write first. So revolutionary nationalism, it has 3 phases, but the phase 1. So the youth of the Bengal, they wanted to take the law in their hand, and they wanted to take the revenge from the British authority. So they created many revolutionary organizations, Anusilan Samiti, Jugantar Group. Then, so Anusilan Samiti, Jugantar Group, Abhinav Bharat in different parts of India. So Bengal mein Yugantar and Anusilan Samiti, and in Maharashtra, Abhinav Bharat by V.D. Savarkar and G.D. Savarkar. Then, so these revolutionary organizations, they want to fight with British militarily. And then the final culmination of this revolutionary nationalism is the 1913 Gadar movement. Then, so Gadar movement started. It is a military campaign against the British authority in between 1913 to 1915. Though it created a very high fervor in the northern and the northwestern and the eastern part of India. But then by 1915, Gadar movement was suppressed, and all the revolutionary activities were suppressed. So we'll see that what all people were there in this particular phase. And this is the phase where the story of the cellular jail starts, Kalapani. Majority of the revolutionaries arrested, and they were the one who were sent to the Kalapani, including the V.D. Savarkar. Okay? So including the V.D. Savarkar and n number of the revolutionaries who were there from the Bengal, including the Aurobindo's brother Barindranath Ghosh. Okay? So these all people. Now understand. So revolutionary nationalism phase 1 came to end by 1915, and Swadeshi boycott has also come to an end by 1915, and so as release of the Tilak from the jail, and he is thinking about the home rule agitation. So understand, in 1916, in April, Tilak started home rule movement, and in 1916 September, Mrs. Annie Besant started home rule movement. So what is home rule? They were demanding self-rule in India. What is self-rule? That British monarchy can continue, but Indians must be given the right to rule in their own country. Okay? So what is the today's system in the Britain? That who is the head of the state? British king. Okay? So British king, monarch, and then the elected heads are ruling the country. Okay? So elected heads is the prime minister. So similar way, home rule will be like that British monarch can continue as the monarch of India, but then Indians would be the prime minister, Indians would be the finance minister, Indians will be ruling their own country. So they demanded home rule. And in this movement also, their methods were, their objectives were basically that create awareness in the society. They organized libraries, reading rooms, nukkad, natak, and that's how they were creating the awareness. But in the middle of this movement, it is the arrest of the Mrs. Annie Besant which was pivotal. Okay? So Mrs. Annie Besant was arrested in 1917, and along with all the members of her, important members of her Home Rule League. But then Mrs. Annie Besant, when she was arrested, all over India there was a Protestant movement, and people were fighting for the Mrs. Annie Besant like she's their own. So now finally British government was under pressure. In 1917 itself, she was released from the jail. And moreover, looking at the steam which was generated in the Home Rule movement, British government announced in 1918 that in 1919 we are going to come up with the reforms, and in these reforms we will address majority of the problems. Then, so now Mrs. Annie Besant has accepted this particular announcement, and she called off her home rule agitation. On the other hand, what about the Tilak? So Tilak did not stop his home rule movement, But then Tilak was already very ill by this point of time. So he suffered a lot in the Mandale jail when he was deported for 6 years, and he was not well with his health. At the same point of time, he went to Britain to fight a case in the Britain. And when he returned back from the Britain after fighting that case, he was dead. Then, so he did not survive for a longer, and then his home rule also came to an end. So till this point of time, we haven't talked about the personality with whom we started the class, Gandhi. Then, so where is he? Where is Gandhi? So understand, Gandhi after, okay, his initial education in India, and then the secondary education, the higher education from the Britain, that is the study in the legal things, okay, law. So after completing his legal studies, he came to India, but then he was not finding any case to fight in India, and finally he found one opportunity in South Africa. So in 1893, he went to South Africa to fight the legal problem of an Indian client in South Africa. But then, looking at the Indian indentured labor condition in South Africa, Gandhi stayed for some time to solve their problem, and this some time turned into 20 years. So Gandhi stayed in South Africa for 20 years, and he experimented with his methods in these 20 years. Then, so he experimented, and finally in 1914 he got some success in the South Africa, and then he started for India. So 9th of January 1915 he has come back to India. Initially, Gandhi, when he came back to India, so that is the time when Home Rule movement steam was generated, and then Gandhi did not participate in the Home Rule. In fact, he started traveling to all over India to understand the problems of the people. And finally, Gandhi started his first intervention in India with the regional problems. And what were the regional problems? 3 regional problems. Ek to Champaran issue. The issue at the Champaran was indigo plantation. Then, so indigo, then the second was Ahmedabad mill strike, and the third one was the Kheda Satyagraha. So what was the indigo problem in Champaran, in Bihar? Then he was able to convince the British authority, and somehow he was able to solve the problem. Then the Ahmedabad mill strike, the workers were demanding increase in the wages. Here also Gandhi's intervention was highly effective, and then workers got what they demanded. Then the third was Kheda Satyagraha. Kheda is a district in the Gujarat, and it was the home district of the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So Kheda mein there was a drought, there was a sukha, and people were demanding remission of the land revenue. Okay? So remission of land revenue meaning that British authority must not collect the land revenue. Okay? So here, when Gandhi's intervention happened, so finally British government was forced to accept what Gandhi is demanding. Then, now with these 3 movements, obviously Gandhi's popularity is going to increase in the leaps and bounds, because before Gandhi, nobody has been this much successful in the Indian scenario against the British authority. So his popularity increased, and that's how people started to develop a lot of trust and faith in the Gandhi. So now, this is said and done. What about the reforms which the government announced कि 1918 में कि अगले साल हम reform लेके आ रहे हैं? What was the reform? Montagu-Chelmsford reform of the 1919. And this Montagu-Chelmsford reform of the 1919, there are many things, obviously, that some of the more political rights were given to the Indians, but then फिर वापस से British government is coming to the divide and rule. The separate electorate which was given to the Muslim masses in 1909, now it was given to the Sikh community, Anglo-Indian community, and so as the Christian community. So what we said, कि एक बार एक community से start होगा, तो it will not stop at that community. It will be further extended to the other communities also. And then who will be benefiting? The British. So now it was very clear that the separate electorate is doing the damage to the unity of India, the nationalism of India. And at the same point of time, government also came up with one more bill, and the name of the bill was the Rowlatt Bill. What was the purpose of the Rowlatt Bill? Understand that Rowlatt Bill, एक बार पहले मेरे को बोल लेने दो, that in the name of the curbing terrorist violence, it was curtailing the civil liberty of Indians. What does it mean? Terrorist violence खत्म करने के नाम पर they were putting a chain on the mouth of all the Indians, meaning that anybody will not speak anything. Okay? So that is the civil liberty, that we must not behave like this, we must not behave like that. So they are saying that कि नहीं 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 हमारा काम तो सिर्फ terrorist violence को रोकना है. But what they are doing? they are curbing the expression of each and every Indian. So now this was injustice, this was the further exploitation, subjugation and domination of the Indians, and this is the time when Gandhi suggested Rollet Satyagraha. Then, so all India Rollet Satyagraha. But then this Gandhi's suggestion of the Rollet Satyagraha, nobody knew. Everybody was hopeful that it will be successful, but then it became very unfortunate. And what was that? This Rollet Satyagraha led to the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Then, so British authorities were fully prepared to encounter the Rollet Satyagraha and to meet any challenge in a violent way. And that's what happened. 13th of April, Baisakhi Day, Amritsar. Then people are in the city for celebration of the Baisakhi. They don't know that what will happen to them. A public speech is going in the Jallianwala Bagh, that ground. And then, as you know, Indians are like that, कि अभी 4 लोग बैठ के अगर जो रोड पे खड़े होके यहाँ पे बात कर रहे हो तो हम लोग 15 लोग जाके ऐसे ऐसे देखने लगेंगे. Then, so we were also that we are like this only, and that's how that in a public speech, if 10-15 people are listening, तो अरे चलो देख के आते हैं क्या बोल रहे हैं, ठीक है? So the crowd swelled in that Jallianwala Bagh, and there was only one entry and only one exit. And then General Dyer found this as to be a great opportunity to show his terrorism. And then he ordered his troop to fire on the unarmed crowd, and 15 minutes continuously the firing happened, and then government gave the estimate that 379 people, only 379 people were dead, but the reality is that more than 1,000 people died. This brutality stunned the nation, and Gandhi had no other option than to withdraw the take back the Rollet Satyagraha. But then when he has taken back the Rollet Satyagraha, he has given a promise to the Indians that I will come up with a much better, okay, much reformed freedom movement, and this determination turned out to be non-cooperation. So in 1920, okay, in 1920, Gandhi is going to initiate non-cooperation movement. Now this non-cooperation movement started, and it was in true sense, it was the first true mass movement of India. And in terms of the number of the participation of the people, it was very high. Then large number of the people participated in the non-cooperation. And in fact, it is said that British government were there on their toes, okay? That they were there on the toes that how to tackle, how to solve the problem of this non-cooperation. Then, so in the middle, there were many attempts by the British authority to stop the movement through consultation, through dialogue, but then it was not getting stopped. It seemed that everything is going in the right direction, but then one more unfortunate incident happened. And what is the incident? So incident is the Chauri Chaura incident. It's a small town in the eastern UP, Gorakhpur. I hope you must have heard about the district. It's a district of the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath ji. So that in the that Gorakhpur district, there was this small town of the Chauri Chaura, and what happened that people, those who were participating in the non-cooperation, and they were going ahead with the Protestant movement. But what happened? British authority came charging on them, and the police officers thoroughly beat the masses. After that, masses also retaliated. They forgot about the non-violent methods. Okay? So they were like, "Ki tum ek maroge to hum char marenge." So then, what they did, that they threw all the policemen inside the police station and they torched the police station. Okay? Torch, understand now? They burnt the police station, and it led to the death of many policemen. They were live burnt in that particularly, that death happened. It happened on the 5th of Feb 1922. And since it was the violent activity on the part of the masses, Gandhi decided that he will call off the non-cooperation. Okay? And Gandhi was criticized at this time कि कुछ लोगों ने अगर जो violence को resort किया, if some people have resorted to the violence, why the entire nation will pay for it? But then the explanation of the Gandhi, आज कुछ लोगों ने किया है, कल कुछ और लोग इंस्पायर होंगे, परसों कुछ और. So एक चौरी चौरा नहीं, 100 चौरी चौरा इंडिया में होंगे. You're getting it? That it's just one incident. It may increase in many folds if we do not call it at this time. But then, what was the outcome? Gandhi himself was arrested by the British government, and British government charged Gandhi with the sedition and activities against the establishment, meaning government against Sadyantra, and he was arrested and he was sent to the jail for 6 years. Meanwhile, Congress organization is directionless at this time, and in Congress once again the fights started, ideological fight. And what was the fight? So till the non-cooperation movement, that Congress was not participating in the assemblies, meaning that they were not fighting the elections. Now some of the members of the Congress started to say, let's end the boycott of the councils, let's fight the elections and enter into the councils for some time. Okay? But then the other faction led by Sardar Patel, Rajendra Prasad and Rajgopalachari, they were like, let's stick to the Gandhian methods, not enter into the council. So this is the phase which is called as pro-changer, no-changer phase after the arrest of the Gandhi. They were not able to coincide with together, and then a new party was created from the Congress, Swaraj Party, which was created by Motilal Nehru and C.R. Das. They went on to fight, that they decided that we'll be fighting the election. But then Congress में इस time तक a better sense prevailed. What is better sense? Earlier they realized that the mistake of the Surat split, that it will not do good to the country, and they started to cooperate with each other. So later on, the Congress, that the other members, Sardar Patel, C. Rajgopalachari and Rajendra Prasad, they agreed that Swaraj Party can continue with the election thing, they can contest the election. So elections happened, they entered into the councils. But then when Gandhi was released from the jail on health grounds, then so he was not satisfied with the work of the Swarajists in the council, and in 1926 he asked Swarajists to resign from the council, and they obeyed. Okay? So at least with the Gandhi's arrival, ideological differences to hain, but at least people are listening to the one central authority. So now they resigned. This is also the time, one of the reasons of the resignation was announcement of the Simon Commission. So Simon Commission, it was constituted to review the constitutional reforms of India and suggest the further future constitutional reform in India. The problem with the commission that it was an all-white commission, not even a single Indian, the most moderate, the most liberal was accommodated in this commission. किसी एक इंडियन को भी नहीं दिया था. So then it was felt like an embarrassment to all the Indians, and that is the time when the idea of the Simon boycott came to picture. And in fact, in Simon boycott, everyone participated. Congress, Muslim League, Hindu Mahasabha, Tej Bahadur Sapro's organization, Liberal Federation, all the major parties of India, they came together and they participated in it. And this is the incident which led to the death of the Lala Lajpat Rai. In one of the protests in the Lahore, he was hit on the chest, okay? And then he, after 15-20 days, he succumbed to the injuries. And his death was revenged by Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev. So that is also the second phase of the revolutionary nationalism. 1924 to 1934 is the second phase of the revolutionary nationalism, and these people who considered Lala Lajpat Rai as their leader then, or as their idol, so now they felt offended and they took the revenge of the killing of the Lala Lajpat Rai by killing one of the British police officer, John Saunders. Then moreover, Bhagat Singh and Batukeshwar Dutt, they have also thrown a bomb in the Central Assembly. Then, so low intensity bomb फेंकने के बाद they also quoted their arrest. Then, so they also quoted their arrest. They did not escape from the place, and that's how their trials started. Okay, so their trial started. Unfortunate is the day of the 23rd of March, 1931, when these revolutionaries, they were hanged. Then, so they were hanged, and moreover, at this point of time, there were many such complexities were going on. So what were the complexity? Let's understand with the Gandhian movement. Then, so we will talk about that. Was it in the classes? We'll talk about, was it in the hands of the Gandhi that he could have saved the life of the revolutionaries? There is still this question hangs many a time कि गांधी ने कुछ और ट्राई किया होता तो मे बी इनकी लाइफ बच जाती. So we'll have that discussion in the class then. But now, so with their death, the second phase of the revolutionary nationalism comes to an end. What about the Simon Commission के बाद का episode? So now Congress has decided that it will go into the much bigger movement, and that movement is the civil disobedience movement. Then, so in 1930, with the Dandi March, Salt Satyagraha, Gandhi started civil disobedience movement. And civil disobedience, एक simple सा word, that simple part of it I'm telling you. Civil disobedience movement is the one in which people will be breaking the laws. Non-cooperation में people don't break the laws. Then, but then in civil disobedience, people will be breaking the laws which are unjust, which are unjustified. So that's how. civil disobedience was much bigger movement, and people all over India, people started to participate in it, and they were breaking the salt law at that point of time. And moreover, British government was clueless at this time that how to tackle this thing. And that's the time when Viceroy Irwin was forced by the British government, then forced by the British government to anyhow, okay, bring Congress to the second round table conference, or bring Gandhi or any representative of the Congress to round table conference. And then in round table conference, we will try to stop this civil disobedience movement. And what is this round table conference? To have a consultation on the future constitutional reform of India. Then, so now what happened? That this talk between the Gandhi and Viceroy Irwin happened, and this talk is called as Gandhi-Irwin Pact. So as per the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, you know what happened? Gandhi accepted, okay, that he will be suspending the civil disobedience for some time, and then Irwin also accepted many of his demands, but the demand which he did not accepted, the conversion of the death punishment of Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev to a lesser punishment. So this is where the question comes कि गांधी ने थोड़ा और ट्राई किया होता तो इनकी लाइफ बच जाती, ठीक है. So we'll discuss about it. But anyways, Gandhi participated in the second roundtable conference, and when he participated, he achieved nothing in the second roundtable conference. And when he came back to India, he came back empty-handed. And when he came back to India, so he found that in India, there is already that very good preparation by the British. They are fully prepared that they will not allow Gandhi to continue with the civil disobedience. Gandhi was arrested for some time, he was put into the jail, and then moreover, civil disobedience was not able to function. Within 2 months, British government arrested more than 80,000 people. Then, so now looking at this scenario, in 1934, Gandhi realized that civil disobedience cannot continue in this immense environment of the suppression. So he recalled, or he called off the civil disobedience in 1934. By this point of time, report of the Simon Commission has been submitted, and so as the 3 roundtable conference report has been submitted to the British government. And finally, in 1935, British government came up with the Government of India Act 1935. Then, as per the Government of India Act, one main provision that the provinces of India, the states of India, they were to be given more power and autonomy. So as such, using this particular provision, in 1937, all the major parties of India, they participated in the provincial elections. And in provincial election, out of the 11 British Indian provinces, Congress got majority in the 6 provinces, and it created coalition government in 3 provinces. So 11 में से 9 provinces में, out of the 11, in 9 provinces, Congress had government. And this government, so Congress government continued its rule for 28 months in these 9 provinces. Now, in 1939, when the World War II broke out, then, so World War II broke out, British government declared India to be party to the World War II, and without consulting the Indian leaders, बिना किसी से consultation के announce कर दिया that India will be the party to World War II. And obviously the reasons are not based in India. Why we should be fighting in the World War II? So that was a very right question. So that is the time when Congress leadership and Gandhi has asked to the British authority that how come one enslaved nation like India will be of any help to Britain in the fascist forces against the Hitler. And then Congress decided to resign from the provinces. So that's how they resigned from the provinces. Now, till this time, I haven't mentioned the name of the Subhash Chandra Bose. Then, so we'll further talk in the classes, but then here, let's talk about the glimpse of the Subhash Chandra Bose. He's already a very important figure in the Congress, and his journey started from the 1920s from the non-cooperation, and he was one of the youth leader along with the Jawaharlal Nehru. So in 1938, he was the president of the Congress. 1939 also, he was elected as the president of the Congress. So this time, he said to the Gandhi, when the announcement was made by the British government that India is party to the Second World War, so he said to the Gandhi that this is the right opportunity, that we must once again start civil disobedience movement then and seek the freedom of the India with this mass movement. But Gandhi was not agreeing to the Subhash Chandra Bose. Then Gandhi was like, कि this war of the Britain is a just war. हिंदी में बोलो तो न्याय संगत है, ठीक है, meaning that they are fighting a right war. Then so Gandhi sympathized with the Britain at this time, that the fight of the Britain at this point of time is right. Then because they are fighting against the fascist forces of Hitler. So Gandhi said that I don't think that it will be right to embarrass the British authority at this time when they are fighting a right war. So he did not wanted to start a mass movement, and that's where both the leaders parted their ways. Initially, Subhash Chandra Bose, he remained in the Congress with by creating one more party, Forward Bloc, but then he realized that it is of no use, and then he embarked on a different journey. So he was house arrested in Kolkata, that in his Kolkata home, but ek din he escaped from his Kolkata house, and then he took the route of Afghanistan to Central Asia, to Russia, and from Russia to Germany, to seek the support of Hitler against the British authority, seek the support of Mussolini against the British authority, and seek the support of Japan against the British authority. So we'll talk about him in 1945. Meanwhile, what Gandhi is doing. So Gandhi felt that if I would be cooperating with the British authority, so maybe after some point of time, they themselves will give us all the things that we are demanding. Okay? He was very idealist at this point of time. So his idealism was not practical. Now, looking at these all, Gandhi initiated a token movement, and token movement was individual satyagraha in 1941. So individual satyagraha was not a mass movement as such, but it was that individual satyagrahis were chosen carefully, and it is all about freedom of speech and expression. So they are going from one part of the country to another part of the country, giving speeches against the British authority and demanding what is required for India, but it was not a true mass movement. So Gandhi was expecting that in this way, that British authority will accept the demands of the Congress. In 1942, that British authority has sent Cripps mission. Then, so there were high expectation in the Congress leadership that Cripps mission will give more of the demands of, that's fulfilling the demands of the Congress. But what Cripps mission proposed? Cripps mission, the main highlight is it proposed the blueprint of the partition of India. It exceeded to the demands of the Muslim League. Muslim League, which was demanding Pakistan from March 1940. So it was like that, exceeding to the demands of the Pakistan or separate, that partition of India. This is where the Gandhi got frustrated then, and this is where Gandhi decided that enough is enough, and now we need to start a movement, that is the Quit India movement. And the Quit India movement, he gave the slogan Karo ya Maro, do or die. And moreover, this movement, it was announced on 8th of August 1942, but British government was already there in the preparation. In the early morning of the 9th of August, all the leaders of the Congress, they were arrested in a single sweep, and all of them were put into the different jails, so that there would be no interaction between them, and then the movement cannot be guided. But then movement, when the leaders are not there, so you know what masses will do. Though it was a non-violent movement, but then what it became? Violent movement. Masses resorted to the violence then, and extreme violence. So if British are killing one, so masses are killing two then. So this was the phase of the extreme violence then. And moreover, this is the phase of the revolutionary nationalism 3, because अब कोई difference नहीं रहा non-violence और violence में, दोनों साथ साथ चल रहा है. And then let's come to the Subhash Chandra Bose. So Subhash Chandra Bose, who has gone to Germany, and from Germany he has come to Singapore then. So in Singapore already, understand that by 1943 itself, in Singapore, that Azad Hind Fauj, INA, was created by Captain Mohan Singh with the prisoners of war and with the help of the Japan's army. So now Subhash Chandra Bose took full control of the INA, okay? And then after, he also sought more support of the Japan, which he got. And then after, he created many regiments of the INA, Azad Hind Fauj. These regiments were named after the major nationalists of India, Gandhi, okay, Nehru. Then, so Lakshmi Bai as a women regiment. So there are many regiments which were created, and then Subhash Chandra Bose initiated the one of the very ambitious campaign of his, which is known as Kohima or Imphal campaign. But then here it proved to be very unfortunate, because the timing was not right. Why so? When this started with the support of the southern branch of the Japanese army, once they have reached to the northeastern part of the India, so the INA was outnumbered by the British army in 10:1 ratio. And it is not the only thing. 6th of August, 9th of August, I hope you know the date. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So Japan was nuked. And with the nuking of Japan, there was no option before the Japanese army to surrender. They surrendered unconditionally. And then INA also has to surrender unconditionally in Singapore. At the same point of time, mysterious death of the Subhash Chandra Bose happened. He has taken a flight to the Taiwanese capital, Taipei, and then it has crashed, landed, and then after the death of the Subhash Chandra Bose has happened. There are mysteries around it, we'll discuss in the class. So, death has happened. And on the other hand, all the INA people, they are arrested and they were taken to the, they are taken to India for trials. The famous INA trials started in India at two places, Calcutta and Delhi. So in Calcutta, Despriya Park was the main location, and in Delhi, Red Fort Delhi was the main location. But understand, whenever the INA trials led to any kind of punishment by the British authority to the INA officers, so the INA officers' punishment led to the huge upsurge all over country. What do I mean by upsurge? People once again resorting to the violence. Then they are attacking on the British symbols, railway station, post office, town hall. Okay? So huge upsurge started in India. Now masses will not sit back. And on one hand, the INA upsurge is happening. One more incident happened. The incident was revolt in the Royal Indian Navy. And what was this revolt? So actually there was a ship. The name of the ship was HMIS Talwar, His Majesty of Indian ship. And this His Majesty of Indian ship Talwar, which was docked at Gateway of India, Bombay. And 1100 ratings, Indian ratings, were working on this particular ship. What happened that this 1100 Indians, they went on to strike on the ship. The reason was these Indians, they were served unpalatable food from many days. Sada hua khana. Okay? Basi khana to pata hai. It is sada hua khana. Okay? From many days. Situation was like that. Suppose that today they have gone for the breakfast. In the breakfast, they were served the unpalatable food. They refused to eat. In the evening, same food was served. They refused to eat. In the morning, same food was served. And then they were said that until and unless you finish this food, then only you will be given the new food. ठीक है? तो जो कल खाना नहीं खाया था, वो 3 दिन तक दोहराया जा रहा था. Obviously, in India, not in India, anywhere, it is the biggest humiliation. Okay? And then after these ratings went into strike, and in fact, one of the rating went on to shout, Britishers quit India. He was thoroughly beaten, and that's where the scenario changed. So ये एक ship की कहानी है, Gateway of India पे. Soon within a week, this news has reached to 200 ships which were docked at Gateway of India, and all of them revolted. And when this news reached to the Karachi, so Royal Indian Navy of the Karachi also revolted, and slowly it was spreading to all the coastal belt of India. This event is considered as the last nail in the coffin of the British rule, and as such, on 19th of February 1946, British Prime Minister Clement Attlee announced in the British Parliament that he is sending cabinet mission to India. Cabinet mission arrived in India, which led to the establishment of the Constituent Assembly of India and creation of the interim government under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. Then, so Constituent Assembly will be framing Constitution of India. And then after, finally, Lord Louis Mountbatten was sent to India to decide the fate. And he was the last Viceroy, last Governor General. And when he came, he came to India, so he decided that India and Pakistan has to be created. Partition is inevitable. Now everybody has accepted, ab kuch nahi ho sakta, partition is inevitable. So partition was also decided, and so as the dates, 15th of August, India's freedom, and 14th of August, Pakistan's freedom. Radcliffe Commission was created to decide the boundary between the two newly emerging countries, and Radcliffe Commission report was already there by 10th of August, but report was revealed after 15th of August, because once the report is revealed, so masses will be moving from one side to another side, and which will lead to the communal massacre. So British authority did not want to take the charge of this communal killing on their head, and as such, though on 15th of August, India became free, but then that was also the phase when hell lot of communal massacres have happened in both the parts, Indian part and Pakistan part. Then, so with this particular thing, the story comes to an end in one go. I hope you must have gained some sense of the modern Indian history. So in this way itself, we are going to proceed in the classes. Now understand one more thing. इसके अलावा भी topics हैं, ठीक है? There are many subtopics like economic policy, land revenue policy, then many acts and commissions. So chronology के according ही we will be going into the acts and commission. After the completion of the syllabus, we'll go into the miscellaneous topic. So miscellaneous topic में development in education, colonialism in the princely state, then comparison of the personalities. So these all topics जो भी छूट गया होगा, ठीक है? So those all which are not the part of the story, we will cover separately in the last 2 classes, ठीक है? So this way we are going to proceed. So our first class in reality would be day after tomorrow, and there are other discussions also. So since this would be the first class, so I'll be discussing with you the prelims paper also. That not paper, the pattern, right from the beginning until beginning 2011 से लेके 2023 तक, and then on the basis of it you can decide your reference and everything, ठीक है? So we'll have a discussion of the reference material on that day only, ठीक है? चलो, thank you. Meet you day after tomorrow.